I'm Bob Harris of Decorative Concrete Institute. Welcome to Durum's training and educational series for industrial and decorative flooring systems. On this panel, we've prepared for a stampable overlay, which is called Pasto. Pasto usually requires a profile of somewhere between 4, and in this case, we obtained a surface profile of 5. The way that we got this profile was shot blasting. As you can see, it's a very aggressive profile. A couple of observations before you start your Pasto installation. Depending on the actual application out in the field, you're going to need to form a barrier. What we've done here, and what that does is it contains the material. What we've done here is we have 3/8 of an inch thick foam, and we've attached two-sided tape to it. So this really works great for creating a barrier. Other considerations, if you're doing this application with Pasto, say on a pool deck for example, and you're trying to marry up against an existing pool coping, oftentimes what you're going to have to do is grind down or scarify down the thickness of the Pasto, which is about 3/8 in our case, out about 2 feet. So you have a seamless transition of where the Pasto meets the pool coping. You don't want to have a 3/8 lip up above the pool coping. So just be cautious about that. So we're going to go ahead and show you how fast and easy this works to form a little barrier or a dam to contain the material. We use this a lot for self-leveling overlays as well. But we'll just quickly stick this down. We've already pre-cut it. And just come right on down. It's that fast and easy. Now the material won't push away. Now, if you don't have access to this foam, oftentimes what we'll do is we'll use foam tape, which is considered weather stripping for around windows. And on one side of the foam tape, it has a sticky back or adhesive as well. The problem with this, though, is if you just stick it straight to the concrete like this, oftentimes if there's not good adhesion to the concrete, when you put your cement topping, it'll actually push this and debond it. And there's nothing more frustrating than that happening when you're trying to apply your cement-based topping. So what I like to do first is take some duct tape onto the surface. This burnishes down really nice, and now there's more surface area for your foam tape to stick to. We'll go right precisely to the edge of the foam tape, or of the duct tape, like you see here. And then what we do is peel this off, and to be real precise, we'll take masking plastic. And this really works great for not only our Pasto application, but when we put our self-leveling compound down, this works great too, because inevitably some of the material is going to come up and over the foam tape, and we don't want to contaminate our surrounding areas. Once the material is dry, you simply come back and you peel everything off, and you've got a perfectly clean, crisp line. So that's just a little tip that works real well. Back to our Pasto installation, we've got our surface profile. Now what we're going to do is we're going to obtain what we refer to as SSD, which stands for saturated surface dry. We don't want standing water prior to our CP1000 application, but we do want to just saturate the surface. So for demonstration purposes, we're going to simply use this little sprinkle can here. And then we're going to let this absorb into the surface while we're setting up our mixing station for mixing our Pasto. If you have standing water, we'll take a roller cover that's not been used, or a rag, and absorb up any standing water. Okay, once this is dry, or saturated surface dry, it's time for our CP1000 application. Now we'll put this down. You can you put it in a pump sprayer, and then you can back roll that, or you can massage it into the surface with the push broom. Typically you want to wait a minimum of 4, not to exceed 5 hours usually, if you're applying the same day, for it to dry. You don't want it tacky. So after 4 or 5 hours, you come back and it's time for the application of the Pasto. In the event that you had to come back the next day for some reason, perhaps there was an emergency and you couldn't do your installation of your stamp overlay, it's a good idea to clean the surface and then put another application of CP1000 down prior to the pasto, wait the sufficient dry time, and then you're ready to go. So that's how we've prepared the surface. Now it's time to get busy and let's go mix up some pasto. Okay, we've obtained our saturated surface, dry surface, as you can see, and we're ready for our application of CP1000. Now look, you're not going to thin the CP1000. You want to put it down neat, and what we've done is we've dumped our CP1000 into a bucket just for demonstration purposes. Certainly on much larger areas, it's perfectly acceptable to put it in a pump-up sprayer and spray larger volumes. You don't want to have the material where it stays puddled, so you're going to either, one of two things, roll the material into the surface, or as we mentioned earlier, you're going to come back and massage it in with a broom. But this is a very important component to any of the Durum topping systems, and there's a couple of things that this product does for you when applying the Durum cement-based toppings. Number one, this seals off the substrate. If you were to just put the cement-based topping, whether it was pasto or scrofino, right over the raw concrete, what would happen, it would lock up on you, it would freeze, because all the liquid would just absorb right into the pores and the porosity of the concrete. So this does actually help you seal the substrate off, allowing you to work much more expeditiously and cover larger areas quickly. Also, it acts as an adhesive, because the same CP1000 that we're priming with is going to go into the scrofino for bonding, and here on our pasto we'll mix with just water. So don't skip this very important step. Make sure you prime with the CP1000. Once we get it down, we're going to wait our 4 hours, come back, and it's time to start mixing our pasto stamp overlay single component system. So we'll show you in just a moment how that product goes down. 4 hours has transpired since our application of the CP1000 as a bonding primer. Now it's time to get busy and start mixing our pasto. What we've done here is we've filled up a clean garbage can, and we've actually determined that this is exactly the proper mix proportions for pasto, which happens to be 1 gallon of clean water. So what we'll do is we'll just simply dump it in the bucket here, put it on a little shelf, so we know that every single time we're going to be putting the same proportion of water. Once you've started the mixing process, you never want to have a disruption in that mixing process. If you had something where you stopped during the actual installation, that could spell disaster and it could create a cold joint. So once you've started your application, you're absolutely 100% committed. So this is just one way to be more expeditious in your mixing process rather than sit there and mix 4 quarts each time. Have it pre-weighed out, and it just really speeds up the whole mixing process. So as we get ready to start our mixing, this is an important observation that I've learned through the years, and that is to use metal buckets while mixing. And the reason for that is this is a fairly thick viscosity material, and what happens is this is a mortar style mixer. If you use this aggressive style mixing paddle on a plastic bucket like you see here, inevitably what happens is you go around the rim of the bucket, it starts to shred the bucket, and you'll actually see little fibers of this bucket. So to eliminate that, what we do is we mix in metal buckets and the problem is gone. You need to also understand the correlation of the mixing paddle that you use and the dramatic effect it has on the viscosity of the material. So for example, here's just another style mixing paddle, but this type of mixing paddle that you see here doesn't shear the material quite enough. Now, with some other thinner materials, like scrofino for example, this is a great mixing paddle. But when you're working with something that has a coarser sand, like we're about to mix, this is by far the best mixing paddle to use. Now, just through the years, we've learned just a couple little tricks and tips to help you keep your mixing station a little bit cleaner. So what we do is we'll just cut out a hole out of the bucket lid. We'll put the paddle through here, and then we'll come on in. And then when you start mixing, it's not spewing material out everywhere. So we're going to start mixing here. Put that right there. And as I mentioned, the mix ratio on this material is 1 gallon of clean water to 1 bag of pasto. So we already have 4 buckets here ready to go. It's already pre-measured and pre-weighed, so we just don't stop that process. Now look, on a larger application, you can use a mortar mixer, or you can use a plastic tub where you can mix as many as 2 to 3 bags at one time. So depending on the size job, if I'm doing a large application, I'm actually going to use a mortar mixer to get going. All right. When you're working with cement-based products, it is really important to think about safety. And at a bare minimum, you want to wear a dust mask. You don't want that airborne particulate or the silica to go into your lungs. That can be very harmful. In this case, you're going to always want to add the water first and then slowly add the dry powder into the mix. Typically, we're going to dump about half of it in there, mix that up thoroughly, and then we'll slowly dump the remaining half and typically mix for about 3 minutes till you get a good cohesive or consistent mix. Hang on a sec. Okay, put the bucket lid down. Go ahead. Okay. Now it is a good idea to have a tool we call a margin trowel to go ahead and scrape the side of the bucket all the way around. And also we have another bucket of just clean water that it is a good idea to keep your drill paddle clean. So when we come out of here, we'll put the drill paddle into a clean bucket of water, spin it once. If not, the material tends to accumulate or build up and gets thicker and thicker. So just to give you an idea, the viscosity of this mix is great, okay? It's a very workable mix. I've worked with some through the years that are very thick and tend to freeze up on the floor. So 1 gallon is just the appropriate ideal mix ratio.